Hey everyone, I'm Chris Santos and I'm chatting over here with Chris Gordon.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, listeners and viewers wherever you are in the world right now. This is Hellblazer Biz with your one and only host, as always, me, Chris Gordon. Thank you all for tuning in every time. I really appreciate it. I hope you all enjoy the shows and interviews that I do for you with these amazing people from the world of TV and film and game. If you do, please can I just implore you to retweet, share, comment, like them, everything you can to get them noticed and get them out there. Anyway, moving on to this week, I have got a great guest for you today. He is billed as the hardest working actors in Hollywood you have yet to meet. He is best known for his breakout role in the drama feature film The Girlfriend Experience, where he played the male lead opposite Sasha Grey. And he was introduced to that film by its writer, David Levien from Ocean's 13 and Billions, who was his client as a personal trainer in New York. And he's about to actually star in his second Steven Soderbergh film called Perfect, but it's actually this time is the actor who brought the film to the director. Anyway, without further ado, I shall introduce you to the fantastic, the enigmatic, the brilliant Chris Santos. Good evening, everyone. I have the honour and the delight of the company of Chris Santos. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you. I feel like we've done this before.
Yeah, I get a touch of deja vu, haven't you? Okay. I will just explain that for the fact that we've just spent about a good 20 minutes having a really, really good chat about all these different types of things, and it works out that Skype decided to play up and wasn't recording the call. So, yeah, fantastic.
So here we are again.
Yeah, so yeah. Thank you, Chris, and I do appreciate your patience.
Gladly, I'm having a good time, so it's all good.
That's cool. Anyway, like we've talked about, we've got some questions that we want to go through again. That we've got just to find out about yourself, find out about obviously your history of your films that you've made. So, first questions first is what was it about the world of acting that got you hooked?
Gee, I don't know. So to reiterate, I started acting when I was about 12 years old, and did it from about 12 to 19. And I guess I was pretty successful at that time because I felt comfortable in front of cameras, and pretending became easy for me, and it was really enjoyable. Mm-hmm. But somewhere around the age of about 19, I decided I wanted to leave, the entertainment business and do something else. And I was always an athlete when I was younger, and like I said, you do some wrestling. I did high school wrestling, and I gravitated towards becoming a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. And did that and fell in love with it, and fell in love with helping people and changing their lives, and really felt like I was doing something meaningful with that. And I did it for 10 years. And I'm one of 5 kids in my family, and over the 10 years, all of my brothers and sisters moved out to Los Angeles from New York. Yeah. And my mom called me at one point and was like, Chris, you realize like where this is headed? At some point, I'm going to be moving to California too. Mm-hmm. So after some hard thinking, I decided to sort of like just collapse my New York life and move to Los Angeles. And so I did, and jumped on my brother's couch and decided, like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't want to train anymore. Yeah. As fun as it was, I didn't want to start from scratch. Mm-hmm. And I said, I did enjoy the acting thing, and it's been some time, and I'd like to try to get back at it. And around the same time, I started getting a phone call from one of my very first clients, this guy, David Levien, who was a novelist back then, but always wanted to become a screenwriter. Mm-hmm. And he eventually ended up selling his first screenplay, Rounders, which became like a really cool classic poker movie. Okay. And he went on to do Ocean's 13 with Steven Soderbergh. Yeah. And he had called me and said, hey, man, I know you're in LA, and hold on. Leo, no. And I wrote this film called The Girlfriend Experience with Soderbergh. And I realized that one of the leads, I kind of channeled you into this part. He's a personal trainer, and so I'd love to sit you down with Soderbergh and sort of pick your brain about being a personal trainer and that for the movie. And we can get you a little check, like consultant's check, and I know you could use the money out there in LA. And I was like, great, I'll take a check. I can
Uh-huh.
use any amount of money. That would be great. And so about 6 months or 8 months later, Steven Soderbergh called my phone and was like, hey, let's grab dinner, which we did, which was a pretty crazy, fun, scary experience.
Can imagine.
And he went over a bunch of questions with me about personal training. At the end of the dinner, he looked over me and closed his book and said, hey, Chris, I think you should do this part. I think you should be in the film.
Fantastic.
And, it was crazy. I didn't believe him because we were drinking, of course. And I said, you're drunk,
Yeah. Never believe a drunk conversation.
Yeah. And he called me the next morning and confirmed and said, yeah, you're going to do this. And so I did. And
Fantastic.
so I was saying, I thought it was funny that, I had left the entertainment business and went into personal training, which has nothing to do with the entertainment business, and sort of went as far away from it as I could. And through my family moving to LA, I ended up having to move to LA and then coming right back full circle to acting again. And I was saying how surreal it was to be living in Los Angeles, book a film, playing the lead of a Steven Soderbergh film as an personal trainer that lives and works in New York. So I had to fly back to New York and tell all my friends, like, hey, I booked this lead in this Steven Soderbergh film. I'm going to be playing a personal trainer in New York. And so we went back and shot at gyms that I used to work at, surrounded by trainers I used to work with, but acting in this Soderbergh film. And it was just the coolest experience I could ever go through or share with anybody.
No, it does. It sounds like a great, that's a fantastic story. And like you said, it's, no matter what part of that story I think you can take, it's still going to make a fantastic tale to tell. But altogether, it's one, like you said, we can make a movie based on that just in itself.
Yeah. Like I was saying before, it's like you could slice that story up in many different places, and that could be a story on its own. But all of it chained together, when I tell it, really just blows people away. It blows me away. Yeah,
it's incredible. And I mean, I was explaining as well, it's kind of, I kind of know where the full circle is, because when I was in school, I used to do theatre, and I did that with my exams. That's actually the path that I wanted to go, but I was steered into a more sensible career up. So I hate bunny ears,
It happens to everybody.
Yeah, that's how we got steered. I did German. I ended up doing German, and I've had a great 20-year career in IT, but I used to love the acting, theatre, and then I did the wrestling about 3 years ago, and part of that to me was acting, because the gimmick that I had to play, for some reason I can't remember, there's a song at the time and I used to go around singing it. Now I've got a wife and a child, by the way, but everyone just said I was the campest guy they've ever met. Because so I was like, oh right, okay. Just because I would just happily sing this song, and just because I think it was meant in a way because I'm happy-go-lucky, and all the other wrestlers were all big. I'm not going to say what they were on. They're all like heavy trained, big.
Yeah.
There was me, dumpy, 38 years old, twice the age of everyone, just happily singing, happy to be in the part of it. So they gave me the character of the Fabulous Flash, obviously because of the surname. Yeah, Gordon.
Right.
I was Fabulous Flash, and it was just like, and I realised that these kids were suddenly looking up to me, because for me, it was they gave you like 30 seconds in training to go out and be a character. So
right.
You'd come out and you'd be like, all of a sudden it'd be like 30 seconds, go out, you're a lord. 30 seconds, go out, you're this, that, and the other. And I'd go out and I'd do it quite happily and naturally. And these kids were like, how do you do that? Because they obviously had all the nerves of I mean, I'm 38. I don't give a shit now. But they all had the nerves and the angst and everything. And there's me just walking out, giving it. For me, it was an acting role, and going back, so I fell in love with it again. As well as the physical side, I enjoyed, really, really enjoyed being able to throw myself around as much and throwing other people around. What a stress relief. I'm sure you found that doing your wrestling and doing your what a stress relief after a day to just go and beat the crap out of someone. Legally.
I mean, I hope, like in what you do, it's athletic and nobody really hopefully gets hurt. I'm just injuries here and there, but it is such a great stress reliever to get out there and just like go at it with somebody.
Yeah, it's great, and they, and for the other person as well. And like you say, no injuries. It's you can do it in a safe environment. It's great. Unfortunately, that's where mine ended 3 years ago, because I fell out the ring head first and smashed up my leg and ended up losing a quad muscle. It's nothing compared to what some of these guys go through. But I kind of
Yeah.
from there, I ended up going and finding myself in a film myself a couple of years ago. And I won't say it's the same kind of role that I would have been in previously because I was a pedophile and it's the furthest thing from my mind. Like you'd want, just unlike yourself, where you've gone from fitness trainer and you've done a film with a fitness trainer. So,
Yeah.
and now I interview. So long story
Yeah.
short, that's kind of 20 years between it's coming back full circle.
Yeah, yeah, and it always finds its way back in an unexpected way, you know.
It does, yeah. And I could have shortened that to about 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a good story.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of where you're coming from. Now you are a native New Yorker as well. So how did you find the transition from New York? I'm not going to even try to do a New York accent. As New York, that's about as best as I can do. To
New
LA,
York, yeah, there you go.
to LA, which is obviously you've got New York, fast paced. I mean, LA's fast paced, but I guess there's a different sort of a more.
Well, they're very different places. I'll just start there, and I am. Uh, it's funny. Like I can meet somebody and they'll be talking to me for like 1 minute, and they're like, "Are you a New Yorker?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I've been out here for 10 years. I think the New Yorker's like hardwired into my bones at this point. Uh, I'm a New Yorker forever. Although I got to tell you, my first year in LA, I hated it. I hated the place. I hated the fact that I had to drive.
Hmm.
Uh, People seemed very fake to me, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember I'd been here for about a year, and I've been complaining about it for that year. And ironically enough, when I had to go back to shoot the girlfriend experience, I had to go be in New York for about 2 months.
Yeah.
And I remember the day, and it was a sad day, but I remember the day I'd sat up in my bed in New York, and it had been like bad weather out,
Hmm.
and people like bumping into me and bad attitudes. And I sat up in the bed and I went, oh my God, I miss LA. Like what's happened to me? Like I can't believe this.
Yeah.
And I love New York and I love being in New York. But I will tell you that, after that time, I found some good friends here in LA, and it's sunny every day, and
Hmm.
it's warm every day, and uh, people, I don't care if they're not fake or real, they're nice, and that there's something nice about that. And I've gotten used to driving and the food and the way of life out here. You could go to the beach, you could drive a couple hours and be snowboarding. You could do
Yeah.
anything you want here. And California to me is really become my home. And I mean, ultimately, I'd like to have a place in Manhattan
Hmm.
and be able to go there for a couple months out of the year every year. That would be, knock on wood, dream come true. But I'm an LA person now, and it's funny. Around all the holidays, my mother's always like, should we go back to New York? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, we are now the West Coast branch of the Santos family. People can come visit us, but we're not going back home.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I mean, you end up missing where you've moved to. Like I say, I'm in London now, and I really, really envy you for the fact that I've just walked home, trudged home in snow, because
yeah,
we've got this beast from the east, something else that Russia's thrown at us. Thank you.
yeah.
um,
I lived in London for 3 months, and I swear to God, it's a true story. The sun came out one day for about 1 hour, and people were just running into the streets like Jesus was coming down,
yeah,
ascending from heaven or descending from heaven. I couldn't believe it. The weather's insane.
it is. Yeah, they would have come running out shorts and t-shirts. They were slapping the sun cream on.
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. I actually live in North Wales myself, so I've kind of got. I live about a quarter of a mile from the beach in North
Oh, that's
Wales,
nice.
which is why I don't move. I kind of live down here during the week and go home at weekends with the family. So it's nice
Hmm.
I get to do that. It's kind of not California in the fact that the weather's probably still the same. In fact, it was. It was the beach was covered in snow for the first time
Oh
I've
my
seen it in
God.
a long time.
Yeah,
However, it's nice to be able to do that and just to get out and I've lived up there so long. It's the same feeling as you got in New York. You're sick of the bustle, the hustle, the bustle. Um, I go back to Wales and I'm like, actually, I'm missing being in the West End. I'm missing,
yeah,
because like in LA. I'm the feeling I get. I happily walk around in the West End, some evenings, purely because I just love the atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
theatre district, you've got everything going on around you. I found a place right in Leicester Square where I can do face-to-face interviews for people who are based in London. So you know
Great.
you get the full atmosphere, and it's amazing. And when I do
Yeah.
go back to the nice, quiet, peaceful North Wales, it's like I miss down there. But then when I'm up in North, when I'm down here, I miss being back home. Yeah.
Well, you have the best of both worlds. That's why, like, ultimately, I'd love. I mean, from the second I land in New York and I just touch the cement, and there's just such an energy in New York that
Hmm.
you can't even compare it. But so, like, it sounds like you have, the best setup. You have both, which
That's
is
true. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. You're about 6,000 miles away from yours. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm a three
yeah,
and a half hour drive.
yeah, yeah.
No, yeah, you're right. I was in New York. Oh god, back in 2000. It was the year before the towers. That was the last time, and the first and last time I've been over. And I need to get back because like you say, it's an electric city. It's dynamic. It's a fantastic place.
Yeah, I always tell people, look, everyone should just live in New York for 1 year. 1 year, whatever age you are, just do it. Go live there. It's a phenomenal experience. If you stay longer, stay. If you don't, that's fine. Just make 1 year, and a little bit of New York injection into everyone is good for you.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. It was snowing when I went there as well, actually. I think yeah,
Maybe it's you. You're bringing the snow everywhere.
it could be, it could be. But then Central Park with snow is just one of the most beautiful sights ever.
It's gorgeous. No, it's like New York when it's snowing. It looks like a movie set. It
It does.
honestly does. The whole city feels like you're on a movie set. It's unexplainable.
It was. I mean, I was with my sister, and people were laughing because I had a reefer jacket, pea coat in the proper US
Mm.
Navy pea coat, collar up, and the way I had my hair and obviously my face shape, I was slimmer, and people just said I looked like Joey from Friends. So I was just, I was trudging around New York, and I was just like face lit up because along the streets you could see the steam coming from the drains. You know, and it was
Yeah,
just the stands, the hot selling hot food in the corners,
yeah.
and
No,
it
it's
really
surreal.
was. It was a it was a living movie set. It was
Yeah,
brilliant,
yeah,
brilliant place.
yeah. It's a really great way of explaining it.
So cool. So as you say, I'm going into acting obviously now and progressing through. Have there been any inspirations in the forms of actors and actresses who from past and present maybe you've thought, damn, I'd love to be like them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've really come to and really like Mark Ruffalo's
Mm.
sort of trajectory.
Hmm.
I really think he's just an outstanding uh, actor across the board. And strangely enough, I don't find that I look like him at all. But I've had people say that to me before, and I've taken that as such a compliment. They're like, "Well, you kind of remind me of Mark Ruffalo,"
Yeah, yeah, I
and
can see it.
and and I don't see it necessarily in myself, but like, wow, what a wonderful, wonderful compliment. I don't know if Mark would be happy about that, but I sure am.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, if I could follow someone's sort of trajectory or achieve somebody's level, I would say him for sure. I mean, I think Anthony Hopkins is the best actor on planet Earth that lives and breathes around us. Obviously, Meryl Streep, she's an alien, but but yeah, I'd say Mark to follow his trajectory.
fantastic. And I hope that when people do say that you look like Mark Ruffalo, it's not when he's the Hulk.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
I wouldn't mind playing the Hulk, but not in my real life.
Yeah. I've got to say, I just watched the Ragnarok movie about 2 weeks ago, and I was just in non-stop hysterics. It's just,
Yeah, it's great.
yeah, absolutely fantastic, brilliant, brilliant.
It's great, and I love movies that poke fun at themselves and like it's not hyper serious.
Yeah.
It's just they smashed it. They really smashed
Oh
it.
yeah, they did. Yeah, literally with Hulk as well.
Yeah, that's true. A Hulk
Yeah, but like
smashed
you say, yeah,
everything.
but like you say, even Mark's facial expressions come through quite well on that as well, and even though he's the Hulk, which is obviously fully CGI, it's not because he's still got his expressions and they do come through so well, and yeah, and not just he's a good actor, so I agree with you,
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
and it's funny. There was this funny meme and funny meme of them doing a panel, and obviously they had Mark there doing all those scenes
Mm,
with Chris Helmsworth, because like they're on the panel and you see Mark's like putting his head on Chris
yeah,
and who's the? It was a really funny meme. Who's the actor? Is it Tom who plays Loki?
Tom Hiddleston.
Tom, yeah.
Yeah.
It shows Tom's face because Mark's like putting his head on Chris Helmsworth, and Chris is like putting his head on Mark, and it pans to Tom, and Tom's just alone on the panel. He has the saddest face on it. I think it's hysterical. This is one of the funniest memes I've ever seen.
I'll have to look it up now.
You have to look it up. It's really great.
Excellent. But yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, it's not the movie we're talking about, but that was, yeah, like you say, it's great when a movie can just go out there and just openly make fun of itself. And there's quite a few recent ones which have come out like that, which I've been really pleasantly surprised at, because they've just been totally gone in expecting the worst, or expecting, oh, it's going to be the same thing over and over again, and then all of a sudden you come out, I'm just crying with laughter.
Yeah, it's really great. Really great.
Definitely. If there could be a director, any past and present, that you could work with as well, who would it be and why? I mean, you've worked with one of the best twice.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough question because I just think Steven Soderbergh is so hard to explain, right? Because he's just such this enigma, this mercurial enigma of a human being, and unless you know film and really see this guy's life and body of work, you just don't really appreciate him fully. And once you do, it's like, there could be bigger director names that, if you polled general people would know their names more, but I'd rather work with him every time. I've been spoiled now. If I could only work with him, I would only work with him exclusively. But obviously now, Eddie Alcazar, the director of Perfect, which is the film that Steven Soderbergh executive produced, and the primary thing we can talk about is, funny enough, again, I met Eddie through mutual friends, and I'm a techie and he's a techie, and we just started, we met through somebody, and him and I just started talking, and we were talking for a while. We started talking about technology first and foremost, and then he was like, oh, I was like, oh, what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm a director. And I was like, what do you do? I said, oh, I'm an actor. And he's like, oh, have you been in anything? I was like, oh, I was in this movie called The Girlfriend Experience. And he was like, oh my God, I remember you. I love that movie. I love Steven. I love that movie. I loved you in that movie. Like, so great. And I was like, what have you done? He's like, oh, I'm going to send you this short that I just did, with Flying Lotus, and check it out, see what you think. And I was like, great. I was like, what part of town you live in? He's like, oh, I live on Vine Street. I was like, I live on Vine Street. Where do you live on Vine Street? He's like, oh, I live right here above this restaurant. And I was like, I live across the street from that restaurant. And funny enough, our buildings face each other on the same street, literally looking right at each other.
Wow.
And he's like, let's get lunch this week. And I was like, yeah, let's get lunch. And, we went and we got lunch and we started hanging out. We just became really good friends. This is even before Perfect was in existence.
Yeah.
And we would just hang out, go get lunch. And I saw his work, and like, he's on another frequency, on another level as well. And we just would hang out every week. And he was trying to work on this other film that just wasn't clicking together. Every time we would come close, one piece of the puzzle would fall out. And if you know anything about films, you know that that's a common thing that happens. And he was just getting so frustrated that I was like, dude, you should just work on something else.
Yeah.
And stop trying to force this thing. And so one day he called me and said, hey man, I came up with an idea for a film. And I'm going to do it. And I'm going to run with this thing. And I got the writer already, and I like him a lot. And I want to put you in this. Like, what do you want to work on? And I said, look, man, just make it really challenging, make it difficult, make it hard, and make it fun. And he's like, all right. And so he ended up coming up with this movie, Perfect. And I loved the script, and I loved everything, and I loved Eddie. And we came to do this film and shoot it, which is just, again, this when you see this film, it's so hard to put into words, and we'll come back to it. Yeah. But just to wrap it all back around with my life again, we got done shooting the film, and he was like, hey, would you mind trying to get Soderbergh to watch the film and just give us some creative notes? And I'd never asked Steven to do anything other than us just being friends. Like, hey, I'm in town, let's grab dinner, or let's grab a drink, or something like that. And I think we've maintained that friendship because I've never asked anything of him
Yeah.
in that way. And I just believed in the film, and I believed in Eddie that much, and I really believed that they would connect.
Mhm.
And so I did. I reached out to Steve and said, "Hey, I've got this film I just did. Could you watch it and give the director some creative notes? I really think you're going to respond to this." And he was like, "You know what, Chris? Send it to me. I'll do it."
Cool.
And he did. And I just got a text from him like 2 days later, and he's like, "Chris, this guy's really talented." And I was just like, oh my God, that was unexpected. I said, I really thought you would feel that way. Of course, I didn't know. He's like,
Yeah.
guys, like, I'm going to be in LA. I'm going to meet up with him. And I called Eddie, and he's like, oh my God, like, we're going to meet up. We're going to talk. Like, this is great. I'm going to get notes from him.
Mhm.
Again, this very organic sort of meeting. There was no like strategy here. And they met up, and Eddie called me after and was like, hey man, he wants to help me edit this film.
Yeah.
And then it turned into hey, he wants to executive produce the film. And so here we end up again, this sort of like, there's a lot of years between these stories, but I end up in these very cool sort of organic beginnings of things that launch into something great, where now I have my second Steven Soderbergh film executive produced, and I'm working with this other great director, Eddie, who is just, again, this guy, him and Steven are just operating on a different frequency and on another level. It would be hard for me to call out another director I'd really like to work with, because these guys are so amazing. I'll just work with the two of them forever, and I'm very happy with that. I don't need anyone else.
See, that's a perfect place to be in and a perfect spot to be in then.
Yeah.
And I say it's great that you've got that bond that you've been able to create with them. And hopefully that means that, obviously it's a future thing that will keep recurring. Because I found in my little niche of the corner niche of this entertainment world that is huge.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That sometimes if you do create those relationships and those bonds with people, that they do. I mean, I've had guests come back and again because we've managed to create a bond. That, they remember me, especially with independent film. There's a lot of British and American independent film, British especially. It's a very tight knit family, and I found myself working through a lot of them, and so much so that I got told I'm now the go-to guy for people over here, and I've hosted the Q&A panel at a world premiere 2 weeks ago because because the people and there's a relationship that you build, and if you're happy doing things in that area, then do it. Go out and build it, and keep hold of it and nurture it, and just keep. That's how I think it should be done.
Yeah, and it's funny, I always tell people, like, introduce people to people, be empowered in how you do that. And when I went to Steven, I wasn't like begging him. I was like, hey man, this guy's great. You two should meet. And they did, and they hit it off. And I was at a party with Eddie for a friend of his, and we were sitting in another room, and I said, dude, this is wild. Like, we're in a wild place right now. We were just buddies hanging out. I mean, obviously he's super talented. I think I'm an okay actor. And like, we just got done from talking about a film to a film getting written, to a film getting shot, to Soderbergh, to it just premiered at South by Southwest, and is amazing film. I said, and next is it's going to get sold, which I know it'll get sold, and I think it's going to be great. And we're already almost at the next project. Like, the money will be there for you now because your skill is there. The money will be there now. It's just like, what are you shooting? What's the story? And who are you working with?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it's pretty wild from us just shooting the stuff to this moment where who knows what the next project is. I believe, yes, that Eddie and Steven are two people that I'll constantly be in the mix with. And it does. It feels good. It feels good for me to have been part of Eddie's success, and Eddie in turn to be part of my success. And Steven, and it links all the way back to David. I texted David the other day. I said, hey man, you're probably going to hear your name a lot in these interviews that I'm doing, because the honest truth is I owe all my thanks to him.
Yeah.
Had he not written this trainer in this film and connected me with, that was all on him.
Yeah.
So really all this, comes out of David. And so I just texted, you need to know, even though I'm doing all these things over here, I'm really grateful for you, because without you in this chain, that this wouldn't be here.
Oh no, it's really nice, and it's great to to keep that relationship and recognition.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think it's
nice.
important.
Yeah, you've got a great circle of friends.
Yeah, I said to David, like, he has his show Billions on Showtime, and he's like, "Oh, you coming to New York anytime?" I'm like, I don't know if you watch Billions, but Axe Capital is where the show takes
Mm-hmm.
place. And I'm like, "Yeah, when is my desk at Axe Capital ready? I'm ready to go. Like stockbroker, not a stretch. New York stockbroker."
Yeah.
He just laughs. He's like, "Give me time, Chris. Give me time." But
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool, excellent, excellent. I mean, you did obviously come to the film Perfect then, which is obviously the main reason you are here. Is you said it's just released at the South by Southwest it was Austin, Texas, that wasn't it? That premiered. So again, that's a
Yeah, on the March 11th, so literally a couple days ago.
yeah. So that's that's a pretty big thing as well. What's the film about? What can you tell me about the film itself?
So even though it already premiered, they're wanting to keep
Bits of
sort
it
of like,
quiet.
yeah,
Okay,
quiet. Here's no, but I can tell you a few things.
go.
Uh, I can tell you that my character's name is Strips,
Mhm.
which stands for Stanford Research Institute Problem Solver, which is a type of AI.
Mhm.
Uh, I can tell you this is about a boy with a dark past. I'm not the boy.
Right.
Garrett Waring is the boy
Okay.
with the dark past that goes to a clinic to sort of get help.
Mhm.
And it's set not on planet Earth, and it's set somewhere in the future. And there's a lot of you know everyone at the clinic is trying to better themselves or to get
Mhm.
better or to heal themselves or to evolve or to
Okay.
get to the next level of themselves. And there's a lot of like biogenetic engineering
Mhm.
component to it and future technologies used in it. And obviously the name of the movie's Perfect, and you can imagine people are at this clinic to
Yeah.
get to the most perfect form of themselves.
Mhm.
But in all these interviews I've always been saying, I find it really interesting if you, me, and every listener right now were to write down what their version of perfect is for themselves, and we compare them, nobody's would be the same.
Yeah.
They would all be so different.
Mhm.
And so, like, if you had a film where you're at a clinic where people were evolving to their perfect version of themselves, what would that look like? And I think this film is a glimpse into what it could look like.
Okay. That is interesting. I mean, as you were talking about there, I was picturing and the fact that it is very apt in the society that we live in, and it's so yeah, I could see how
Well, I
that
think
is
it hits
very very
home in like,
relevant.
yeah, in like where we're headed, right? Like, there's all these
Mm,
uh, surgeries and implants and medicines, and I mean, you can change sexes now
I know.
if
Yeah.
to whatever sex you felt like you should have been born in.
Yeah.
How insane is that? How great! Insanely great. I mean, like,
Yeah. Technology has
technology
advanced
has
so much.
allowed you to, if you felt that you were born a different sex, you can free that part of yourself out. And how wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, that's the good part to it. But then there are cases where people go too far,
Mhm.
like people doing too many plastic surgeries. And in the future, who knows how far all these other changes that you'll be able to do, the people that take it too far sometimes. and
Yeah.
and we've all seen those cases, people taking too many drugs or too many hormones or too many
Mhm.
surgeries. And to them, if you'd ask them, they look great. Like, I always find it interesting when I watch those like botched shows with the plastic surgery,
Yeah.
and the doctor's like, you cannot do any more surgeries. And they're like, then they interview them after, like, no, I'm gonna go get more. Like, because it's this twisted version of it, but
Mhm.
they're chasing this form of perfection.
It's an addiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a very famous guy over here called Pete Burns. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He sang that
No.
song in the 80s. You spin me right round, dude. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had loads of yeah. Look him up afterwards because he had loads of plastic surgery. And I think if I'm right in saying it went wrong because he ended up and he really got it, the way he looked as a result of it. He's quite famous over here for it.
Yeah. And
Sadly,
we have a
passed away
bunch
a
of
few
those
years ago.
people, here as well. But
Yeah.
I say to people, like, interesting is not perfect is not interesting. It's
Mm.
not real, and I don't know why people chase it. It's really our idiosyncrasies and our our issues and our neuroses that make us interesting to other people. I mean, perfect life. That's not fun. Like, my life's great. I get everything I want.
Yeah.
I look great. I have no problems. I'm not insecure. Like that, you're not ever going to connect with anyone, because the general population faces all of those issues. It's like, what are you even chasing perfect for?
Exactly. Because I like you say, everyone's different. For mine, for example, I honestly, I can't stand the way I look, and I try to change that. But whereas my wife, my son, and everyone else looks past that, because that's the vain
Right.
side. That's the vain side of me. I've got to say, but everyone else looks past that and says, "But the fact that I can talk to actors like you, there's loads of people who come to me and say, how could you do that? That is so amazing that you've just got the ability just to go out and chat and and I can't see it, because for me it's natural, but for someone else
Right.
it's like, that's their vision. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect to some people, I'm not, but I'm just saying I can see where qualities of one person, it can shine through and be perfect in the eyes of other people, and be good in the eyes of other people. And like you say, those insecurities that everybody has is what makes their life interesting. The amount of times that you talk to people and you find out, and maybe you've got some of the things in common, or maybe that's what makes life interesting. If we were all robotic,
Yeah, I think
looking the
it's so
same.
cool. I think the coolest thing for me is like when I'm around somebody that I put on a pedestal, or I'm insecure around, because I think they're so much better than me, or they're so together. And the times they've like looked at me and said like, I'm so scared right now, or I think I'm not good.
Yeah.
Like someone I think is great, and they're like, oh, I think I'm terrible, and they really mean it. And like, you're like, oh my God, this person's human. This person is just like me, and suddenly you feel connected to them more.
Yeah, definitely. And there is that. It's just, I think that's what makes us human, and that's what makes. So I can't wait to watch Perfect, because it sounds like it's my kind of film, where it does sort of look into that, and highlight what society could become if we carried on down this path of. I mean, we'll all end up autonomous-looking robots. That's and that's.
I mean, that's a component of the movie, and I think all these technologies are coming at us, right? Someone really smart a long time ago said to me, like, I know there will be cyborgs. I'll know there will be all these things. I'll tell you why. Computers started as like the size of a building and really far away. And they're getting smaller and closer and smaller and closer and smaller and closer. It's inevitable they'll be within us. You can see it. Everything, like even your headset and your phone is in your pocket, and people are injecting chips into themselves. It's like it's going that way, nanotechnology. But when you do have nanotechnology, or these implants that you can put in, or other things that will genetically modify you, what is society going to look like?
Yeah.
And it's not far away. It's really close.
Oh yeah. The technology's almost there, I would say. In fact, it probably is there. It's probably been developed.
It's there, and the experiments are being done. We just don't know about them.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know about them until they've been tested.
So Perfect is going to be this really highly stylized look into this clinic where those technologies are available.
Yep. I'm going to draw that right back to a film which is nearly 100 years old. In fact, it probably is. Yeah, it is, because that, to me, would lead us to a society that would be. I mean, forgive me if I'm going to, it's obviously that kind of thing. And I think the perfect film aside, your film aside, if society does go that, I think it will take that back to the difference between the rich and the poor. Because I think there's Metropolis was about 100. Do you remember Fritz Lang's Metropolis? Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
I studied because part of my German degree, I actually ended up studying a lot of German film, and that was one of them. And it's one of the best films because, and I could see society the way we've just chatted about, obviously, with the chips and everything, and the people striving for perfection. You could end up with a society like Metropolis, where you've got the people who can afford it all, and the people who've genetically modified themselves, living on the surface, and it's underneath. It's the people who can't afford it, the people who are living with it, who are never going to be able to get there. They're the ones who are having to prop up and keep. I mean, it's a cyclic thing of socialism, but I think
it is.
Very much see that working.
I think it'll go that way. There's another movie, Gattaca, Ethan Hawke film. and that's where everyone is. They test your DNA, and it's like everything's judged on that. I see it going that way. It's already here. It's right here. It's right in front of us. And let's hope that as we evolve physically, we evolve mentally, and strip away the whole class system and keeping the rich rich and the poor poor.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened yet. That would be a very big jump in the human race.
It would be. It would be. That's why Star Trek was ideal, because it was classless and it was no money.
Right. I mean, eventually, to be honest, I think eventually it does get there too. I don't know how quick or how long that takes, but I think once we elevate above the idea of money and class, that's where humans will really start to make great strides.
Yeah, definitely. When we start working together as a human race rather than separating into race, colour, money,
fighting
rich.
to keep you down while me up, and so much energy is spent on that.
Yeah.
Whereas if it all of that goes away and we're all pushing forwards, I think that's a really wonderful time.
Exactly. All these scientists and all these countries are pushing all for weapons to kill each other. I mean, I'm talking about and obviously, I won't say Russia because I'll probably get sued. But, allegedly, Russia and America and Britain. All these billions that you pump into all these modern and high-tech warfare. If we just all work together and got rid of all that and worked as one human race, look what we could achieve. Look what
the potential is unlimited. Unfortunately, we're just not there yet, which is okay. We will.
Yeah, you're right. We will get there. Excellent. So this leads me on to my signature question, Chris.
Okay.
Because before we wrap it up, sadly, this was brought to me because last year I had a guest on my show called Mike Quinn. You might have heard of him. He's actually played Nine Numb in Return of the Jedi. You know the monkey guy, the one with the monkey face who was in the...
Oh, yeah.
The end of the Return of the Jedi. And he's also in the new ones as well. He survived all the whatever happened in the wars, and he got through to the new ones. He's also been a puppeteer with Jim Henson for 25 years. Wow. And he's really great, fun guy. And one of the questions asked to me to ask him, I thought was just a really cracking question. I've kept it as my signature question. And that is, if you could have a Muppet character created after you, what kind of Muppet would it be and why?
This is a terrible question. I love it. Oh, man. My God. What type of character would I be and why?
It could be a mix of ones. It could be it could be a brand new one.
I don't know why. I'm getting the image of the Count in my mind. I don't know why. I'm getting him in my mind.
Vaughn.
Yes, the blood. Maybe I'd be like a helping vampire. There you go. I could be a helping vampire.
Excellent.
Drink some blood once in a while.
Cool. I've been asking this for about a year now, and you're the second person in a row who has mentioned the Count.
Oh, really?
Yeah. One of my previous guests, the last week's was he mentioned the same thing, and and I've not heard that one before. No one's ever mentioned the Count. It's always I've lots of piggies and Kermits and animals, Fozzie Bears.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. That's so funny. I went through all of them, but the Count just kept popping up in my head.
Yeah, because I've got my Kermit is Chris. I can't hang on a minute. I've got to do the voice. Chris. Hang on, I'll change. Hang on. Sorry. It's gonna go. Piggy. You're needed on set, Piggy.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's not as good as the Yoda, but I'm not going to do that one for you again. So that's how I started out 2.5 years ago, just doing stupid stuff like that.
Wow.
I even sang the Rainbow Connection on a karaoke app in Kermit voice.
Oh my God. I'm going to have to see that.
That was hard.
No, but I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and she's awesome. And I was saying, it's just so funny. You can start from anywhere. You know, who's the English guy who does the car karaoke with all the actors?
Ask James Corden.
Yeah. The same surname. But there's no way he thought that show would turn into that when he started that. There is no way he thought it would turn into what it did, and it did.
Yeah.
And, you could start anywhere, and it'll find its evolution.
Exactly. And like I say, I actually tried to get him on the show because my aim and my goal It was in the segment that I wasn't recording when I said this was my goal is to knock him off nicely because I don't want to. I'm not a nasty person. Is to get knock James Corden off his top spot and just become the chat show king of America,
Yeah,
of the world. Or even like I say, Corden and Gordon. We could do a joint thing.
You could be in the back seat
Yeah.
doing impressions while he's in the front seat singing.
Exactly. I've got
every good talk show has like that second guy.
Exactly. Yeah, the stooge.
Or you could be in the trunk. You could be peering over from the trunk side.
Yeah, doing the impressions. I do actually have one of my first ever. I think it's still on iTunes for anyone who wants to listen. I think I've got a 5-minute interview that I did with Yoda. Well, actually, it's not Yoda. It's the little green man. Thanks to Disney, it wasn't Yoda. I had to take Yoda's name out, and it became the little green man. So I've got a 5-minute interview between me and him. Just me doing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's not video; it's just audio only. But I'll tell you something. I'd have to record it about 16 times because I was just cracking up laughing, trying to go between my voice and then turning it into Yoda's. It was and it's quite risque, and it's probably full of innuendo because you wouldn't want to hear Yoda talking about what he did to Luke's mama.
Oh my God! Poor Yoda's name has been defiled.
It has, yes. Well, something like Luke is, He goes, Luke's, but it's so big. Said your mama to Yoda last night. She did. So yeah, it's just full. That's what my humour's like. Sorry.
No, it's great. It's great.
Anyway, just before I wrap this up, is there anything you'd like to say in final passing to the people who are watching and listening?
I guess I'd like to say to anyone sort of pursuing acting or entertainment field, just sort of the keys that I think are important, to getting ahead, which is, one, be studying or training. You have training underneath. I study very hard and have studied very hard and continue to study very hard and always will. Michelangelo signed the Sistine Chapel in Latin that said Ancora Imparata, which means I'm still learning. And if he could do that and sign it like that, then I have a long, long road to go. But first and foremost, be studying. Being good looking or funny alone is not a skill. That's not a talent. Make sure that you're studying. Go out, meet people, introduce people to people. Do it in an empowered way. Don't feel like you're less than somebody. Talk. I say if you talk to someone like they're a star, they're going to talk to you like you're a fan. Talk to someone like a human, they're going to talk to you like a human. And get involved. Get involved. Don't sit on the sidelines feeling less than. Get in the mix. Get in the middle. And if you're going to talk to people about something you're passionate about, make sure you talk to the people about not something you're passionate about, but talk to them about something they are also passionate about. And people always like, "Oh, it's great that you got to Steven with the film." And I said, "Well, it didn't matter that I was passionate about it, which I was.
Yeah.
I talked to him about a film I thought he would be passionate about. And so, yes, I was passionate, but I called him. I didn't call Steven Spielberg. I called Steven Soderbergh. And I probably would have got a pass from Spielberg if I called him because I don't think it was his type of film. So study hard, get in the mix, introduce people to people, and speak to people who you think would be passionate about what you're passionate about.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was absolutely fantastic. I truly appreciate your time. And thanks to everybody who for listening and tuning in. This has been Chris Gordon on Hellblazer Biz. Keep watching for more great guests. Take it easy.